My dog started barking at the door. But I don't have a dog. This happened 2 nights ago, and I still can't wrap my head around it. What I'm about to tell you sounds absurd. But please, believe me, I wouldn't make something like this up. It was a normal night. I was alone in my apartment, watching TV, when I heard a strange sound coming from the living room. It was a bark. A loud, deep bark, like that of a big dog. The problem? I don't have a dog. For a moment, I thought it might be a neighbor's dog, but the sound was far too loud to be coming from another apartment. It sounded like it was coming from inside my living room. Hesitant, I got up to check. The living room was empty. No sign of a dog or anything that could have made that sound. I decided to ignore it. Maybe I was just imagining things. Later, as I tried to sleep, the barking started again. This time, it was closer. It sounded like it was coming from right outside my bedroom door. I turned on the light and rushed to open the door. Nothing. The hallway was empty, but I swear I smelled wet dog in the air. I tried convincing myself it was a waking dream, but then things got worse. The next night, the barking returned, but now it was accompanied by scratching. Loud, frantic scratching, as if something was desperate to get into my bedroom. I grabbed my phone to record the sound, but the moment I hit record, it stopped. I walked over to the door and peeked through the peephole. For a split second, I nearly fainted from fear. In the hallway, there was a shadow. It was low but massive, like a giant dog. It was standing still, facing my door, with glowing red slits for eyes. I blinked, and the shadow was gone. On the third night, the sound changed. It wasn't barking or scratching anymore, but something even more unsettling. Footsteps. They started in the hallway, came closer to my door, and then the doorknob started turning. I froze. I didn't know what to do. My phone was on the dresser, too far to reach without making noise. The doorknob turned again, harder this time, until I yelled, "Who's there?" The sound stopped, and then I heard a low whisper from the other side of the door. "Open it, he's hungry." I spent the rest of the night locked in my bedroom, clutching a knife, listening to footsteps circling the apartment and that deep bark echoing through the walls. This morning, I left for work without looking back. When I returned, I found something that made me consider never coming back inside. Bite marks on my bedroom door, deep and wet, as if something huge had tried to gnaw through the wood. I don't know what to do. I don't know what this is. But tonight, I'm not staying here alone to find out. There's a sound in the attic that only happens when I'm home alone. I always thought living alone was a privilege. The freedom, the silence, the complete control over my space. But lately, I would trade all of that for the constant presence of another human being. It all started 3 weeks ago, on a night that should have been like any other. I was sitting on the couch, watching my favorite show, when I heard a muffled sound coming from the attic. It was as if something heavy had been dragged a few feet. My heart raced, but I convinced myself it was just the house settling, or maybe a rat, which, let's be honest, would have been bad enough. In the following days, the sound became more frequent. At first, it was just occasional creaks, but soon it escalated into something more unsettling. Footsteps. Slow, methodical footsteps that seemed to explore the space right above my head. One night, I decided to gather my courage and investigate. I grabbed a flashlight, dragged the ladder to the attic hatch, and climbed up. Up there, the air was colder, and there was a strange smell. A mix of old wood and something metallic. I searched everywhere. There were no signs of rodents or anything that could have caused those noises. Just dusty old boxes and an oppressive feeling that I didn't belong there. I decided to set some rat traps as a precaution, but the sounds continued. Louder, bolder. Felt as though something knew I was paying attention. The worst night was last Friday. I was in the kitchen, washing dishes, when I heard the attic hatch open with a dry, cracking sound. I can't describe the feeling of being paralyzed by fear, but that's exactly what happened. The attic door had never moved on its own before. I grabbed a knife, the only improvised weapon within reach, and ran to the hallway. The hatch was slightly ajar, swinging gently. That's when I heard it. A low, raspy laugh, like someone was trying to stifle their laughter but failing. I shouted something. I can't even remember what. Something like, "Who's there?" But the only reply was silence. I climbed the stairs, trembling, and slammed my bedroom door shut, locking it. I stayed up all night, listening to those footsteps in the attic, which at times descended into the hallway. The next morning, the attic hatch was closed again. I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? That a laugh scared me? Instead, I decided to install cameras throughout the house. I thought it would give me some answers. Last night, I reviewed the footage. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary until I reached the exact moment I'd heard the laugh. The camera pointed at the hallway captured something that made my stomach churn. The attic hatch opened on its own, and a skeletal hand emerged, gripping the edge. The camera caught a pale face with sunken eyes and a wide, crooked smile, staring directly at the lens, as if it knew I was watching. That thing is in my attic now, and I don't know what to do. When you live alone, there's no one to confirm if everything is okay, or to help when it's not. If I stop updating, just know that it finally came down. The doorbell rang at 3 a.m., but no one was there? Or were they? I live on a quiet street, the kind where people go to bed early and the silence of the night is only broken by the distant sound of a passing car. I've never had any problems here, which is exactly why this story keeps me up at night. It was a Tuesday, 3 a.m. I was still awake, struggling with insomnia, when the doorbell rang. It was a short sound, like someone had pressed the button for just a second. I got up immediately, confused. Who would be ringing my doorbell at that hour? I peeked out the living room window, but the street was empty. I thought maybe it was some teenager playing pranks, but when I checked the footage from my doorbell camera app, there was no one there. That would have been strange enough, but as I was heading back to my room, the sound came again. One ring, then two, then three. This time, longer and more insistent. I grabbed my phone and opened the live feed from the camera. My breath caught in my throat. Someone or something was there. The image was odd, distorted, as if the signal was bad, but I could make out a silhouette. It was tall, thin, and wrong. Something about the posture seemed inhuman, as if it was forcing its body to appear human but wasn't doing a very good job. And then something happened that made my heart stop. The silhouette turned its head directly toward the camera. It shouldn't have been possible since its back had been to it before, but somehow it knew exactly where to look. I couldn't see its face clearly, but there was something off about it. The eyes seemed too large, too deep, and the mouth had a crooked smile that didn't look natural. I froze. I couldn't turn off the camera, couldn't move. I just stood there watching until the figure raised its hand and pointed directly at the camera, as if it knew I was watching. And then suddenly the feed cut out. I spent the rest of the night locked in my bedroom, phone in hand, ready to call the police. But when the sun came up, I decided to check the security app recordings. That's when I noticed something even more terrifying. The footage only showed an empty street. No silhouette, no one ringing the doorbell. Just me, standing in the open doorway in the middle of the night, looking lost. I don't know what that thing was, but since that night, the doorbell keeps ringing at 3 a.m. Every time I check, there's no one there. At least no one I can see.